Hello there, divine humans. I have been feeling the call, the burn to share this today, so I know it is going to be pretty lit and alive. Communicating loving boundaries during social and physical distancing. This is a big deal right now, people, and so I feel I'm just going to share this to my groups. I feel very, very inspired and willing and able to share with you my perspectives on this. I have been teaching people about boundaries and honouring their own sovereignty for a good few years now. And so to me, it feels like perfect timing for me to talk about this and remind people of their own right within themselves to speak for their own needs, and in fact the importance of what it is to speak for your own needs, to set loving boundaries for yourself and others. Hey Pram, we were just talking about this the other day. To set loving, firm boundaries in these times is really, really important. And so I want to talk a little bit about what that might look like for you, what it's been feeling like for me and my experiences of it. And I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions or if anything comes up for you around this. It's a big topic at the moment, so I want to address it with care and sensitivity and a wide angle lens to have a look at sort of all the different parts of it. So the first thing I want to say about this is, there are some mandatory or requested boundaries put in place externally on us at the moment, requests that we keep physical distance of 1.5 meters from each other in public places, and then also that we don't gather in groups of more than 500 people. That's fine for me. I don't do that regularly anyway. But for some people that might be challenging, for some people who like to go out to bars and nightclubs that are packed with people, that could be really challenging. And so, for example, the first thing that comes up in my mind is, at the moment, anyone who lives in a house share arrangement is sharing their house, their space, their home, their sanctuary, their safe place with people who might have a different idea of how to handle and negotiate these kind of social distancing requirements, mandatory instructions, whatever you want to call them. And so then, to me, what comes up around that is, I don't have that situation now, but if I did, how would I handle it? Because I'm here wanting to be in service to as many people as I can, and I think that this is going to be a valuable topic of conversation between friends. It's come up for me between me and some of my friends. I'm choosing to not see some people in person at the moment because our values are not quite in alignment about how to negotiate self-care boundaries in these times. So I've been socially, physically distancing myself for a couple of weeks already because I felt this coming, and I had a few conversations a couple of weeks ago that I'm shared here already around how I set the boundaries for that. And so I would talk to someone before I see them in person about what their current experience is and ask them how they feel about the boundaries. Are they participating? Are they honouring them? What level of self-protection are they at? Not for me to judge what they're doing. I want to be really clear about this. It is actually only our business what someone else is doing insofar as it will impact us. Now, of course, in the bigger picture, the reason we're asking so many humans to participate in these regulatory, mandatory restrictions is to help the bigger picture, the bigger population, to actually understand your impact if you are walking around as an unwitting carrier, an unwitting host, and infecting others. And because this virus tends to spread in ways that are quite voracious, let's use that word, we don't actually know how close we can be to someone, how much we can breathe on them, what we can touch and not touch. So there's a don't touch, no contact request policy at the moment to help mitigate spread. So from that perspective, how do we negotiate and set boundaries? So for me, a boundary is, I am not seeing someone who is not honouring that. Just full stop. That's my boundary for me. Now I get to set that lovingly and say, like, at this time I don't want to see you, I love you, let's have a phone call, let's chat on Skype, whatever. But things that are a little closer to home, I think, can be more challenging to negotiate. So say you have a flatmate who is still going out to parties, for example, and you have concern that they are unwittingly or wittingly or nonchalantly exposing you to something. That's a really important place for you to take whatever self-care measures you need for that. And that might mean having a conversation and asking them to not do that, or how they feel about not doing that, and then maybe setting up some new cleaning regimes in the house to kind of mitigate this, or making requests of them. Now, of course, we cannot force other humans to do our bidding. Unfortunately, I don't know. So it really is a request situation, right? Then it comes to negotiation, but the boundary piece is you with you. So setting a boundary with someone else is a thing that has a consequence. So if you come home and you have not taken your shoes off when you come in the house, and you're potentially walking virus all over the house, for example, I'm going to put all of your shoes in the washing machine on a hot cycle. I mean, it could be a threat, it could be a punishment, but like, what would make me feel safe? I mean, in that situation, what would make me feel safe is like not being in that house. So there's another way you can set boundaries, is like removing yourself. It's the safest way to have a non-threatening boundary, is removal. Some said person might enjoy you not being there. That's something that's probably outside of your control. So there's like things to consider. There's things to consider with this. Like, how do we be kind about each other's experience? How do we have compassion for, someone might be in a lot of nonchalance about it, and how can we activate or help communicate the vulnerability so that they can have some empathy for the situation? They might not care because they might see themselves as low risk. I don't care if I get it or not, no big deal. But you might have a history of asthma and you're actually quite concerned if you get it, you might die, for example. And perhaps in the communication of the boundary, stating the need, because the need underneath is the driving force. Like, why don't I feel safe? Why do I want you to do that thing? So it's not just like, don't do this, don't do that, you can't, you're not allowed to, whatever. Like, maybe you feel like that on the inside, but to truly communicate from the need, the thing inside you, like, it's an interesting spot, right? Because sometimes the need is the feeling, the fear. But this is an opportunity, if you need to set boundaries, to go deep underneath the fear. And what is the need beneath the fear? It might be a fear of death. What do I need to feel safe, to feel like I'm not going to die? Well, it's a lot of unknown, and that's a thing we can't control. Like, sometimes it requires a level of acceptance. But safety in the physical reality in these kinds of situations can usually be handled by negotiating factors in the physical realm. Like, you can still have feelings about it, fear, discomfort, uncertainty, all those things, but actually what in this environment will help? Okay, we can all agree to take our shoes off before we come inside. We can all agree to close the lid on the toilet before we flush so that the fecal matters aren't aerated into the bathroom, which increases the transmission of this bug as well. I won't go into the details of the studies that have been done about how much fecal matter is on the surfaces of bathrooms with toilets in them that have been flushed without the toilet lids on. It is in the billions range. I read that research paper many years ago. I'm a bit of a science geek, and I am a Nazi about closing the toilet lid, and have been for many years because of that, right? I'm like, yay, finally everybody's getting on board. You guys are catching up. You're figuring it out. These things are really present in my level of awareness. Not that I'm more aware than you, it's not that. It's that those are the particular frequencies that have had my attention for a long time. I've always been fascinated by the minutiae of things, what things are made of, how things work. And because of that, I have quite a good understanding of physics and biology and chemistry and how the interrelationship of our realms work, the micro to the macro. Anyway, those are just some of my little geeky passions. What I'm curious about is how you guys are feeling about negotiating your boundaries. You know, like, for example, I had a really sweet experience this afternoon getting into a lift, and there was another lady standing next to the lift before we got in, and we were physical distancing. We were both standing about 2 meters away from each other waiting for the lift, and I hadn't been in this particular lift to go from the car park of this building, and I didn't know how big the lift was. So I had already set myself a level of safety, which was, if I don't feel like this lift is big enough to house both of us and have us in what I feel is correct physical distancing, I will step back and allow this woman to take the lift first to protect myself, right? My choice. Lift arrives, we both peer in, so she was obviously thinking the same thing. It's big enough, she goes in, I follow her, and we stand at like opposite corners of the lift. Now, we're in the car park, and a man comes along and doesn't try and get in the lift, but he's like just before the doorway, and this woman was standing near the buttons, and she just kind of went, "We'll send the lift back down for you," and she pressed the closed doors button. And I thought, bless her, like that's her setting her boundary of this is enough humans in this lift with me right now. I was a yes for her on that frequency. I was in agreement. In fact, if she hadn't have done that, I would have verbally asked him to not come in the lift. That's just who I am. I'm willing to set my boundaries. I'm willing to protect myself. And I desire to be in the transmission of everyone holding a lot of loving sovereignty in this place, like a lot of loving, like me setting a boundary with you is not me not loving you. This is me wanting to protect myself and in turn protect you and in turn protect our collective. There is a lot of like nurturing energy available now if we are willing to step for a moment out of the fear frequency and come into our hearts. What do we really need right now? Because the fear comes from scarcity, the fear comes from fear of death, the fear comes from the unknown, right? What do we know? We want to feel safe right now. Okay, how do we do that? How do we stay like cool, calm, clear, level-headed? I know my boundaries, then I feel safe, I speak them, I trust myself. If someone doesn't want to participate, I step away. That's my policy, right? There's only a few people that I'm in the level of relating with that I would be willing to go into a very deep negotiation about what that looks like. One of them is someone who I have a deep work relationship with. There are two other people who I have friendships with that we've agreed to see each other under certain conditions and be in constant communication about what's going on for us with our boundaries and how physically close or distant we are willing. You know, I saw a friend of mine today and we maintained, it was so beautiful to see her. I love her, I've missed her. We've both been in a week of complete isolation. And we maintained our physical distance when we saw each other, and it just felt beautiful to honour each other's boundary like that, to know that we could still be in presence, in connection, love each other, be in the same room, but actually honour that. We're both what I consider, I'm only seeing low risk people at the moment. And so it's a really beautiful, interesting spot to come to have a look at what are my needs right now. So that place where like the negotiation comes up is a beautiful place of like, am I willing to expose what's vulnerable here? Why do I have a boundary? There's another spot I want to talk about here and it's about a lot of people I know are afraid to set their boundaries. They don't know where their boundaries are and they feel very lost, confused and unsafe. And I really want to speak to you in this spot if this is you, if you feel overwhelmed and not knowing what the boundaries are, if you are concerned about how to keep yourself safe, if you don't feel like you're being listened to me, that's a really strong opportunity for you to like withdraw a little bit into yourself, into your room, whatever it takes for you to feel safe, wherever you do and can feel safe, and get clear. What are my boundaries here? Am I going to the supermarket or not? If I am, what am I going to do when I'm there? Am I going to wear gloves? Do I need to wear a mask? Am I going to see my friends in person? Yes, no. If I do, what do I require? Do I have a boyfriend or a girlfriend? Do I need to ask them what their social arrangements are like right now? If someone I know is like going out to bars and restaurants and doing a lot of socializing right now, me personally, I'm a no for hanging out with them. That might not be you. That's okay. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm really here to invite you to have a look at your map, your system. How do I feel good and safe? I'm here because I want to bring everyone's frequency down a notch, back in the body, back to heart, back to love. Come out of the panic, come out of freaking out, come out of it's the end of the world. It's not. It's just an adjustment. We're just adjusting some stuff. And when things change, we need to set new limits, new structures. We need to inform people what's going on for us in the change so that we can all feel cared for, heard, looked after, and like honored where we're at. Oof, got the fire on this one today. It's been burning in me. I'm passionate about this. I always have been. It's why I've been teaching about this for years, and this feels like a beautiful opportunity for me to be in service and offer a thing that I love, and a thing that has empowered me so deeply, changed my life when I learned to say no to things that I did not want. And it opened me to know where my yes was so potently that the yes things, if I'm foggy about what I don't want and don't want, a bunch of stuff comes towards me, and it's like each one I have to navigate again and not know, right? But actually, if I'm really clear, that the beautiful thing about clarity is that it's not that I'm a no for a bunch of stuff. It's that I'm so clear on the very few things that I'm a no for that it makes a massive amount of space and opportunity and possibility for the yes things to come towards me. Now, I know that this is not particularly a time of coming towards, but in fact, we're going to really need to know what we will allow to come towards us, because as humans, we need other humans. We need connection. We need to love, be loved, feel love, give love. And so it's very important now for you to know where your boundaries are around these aspects and these topics, so that you can still love and be loved, so that you can still nurture the people around you and be nurtured. This is vital. You know, maybe it's committing to video calls with your friends. Maybe it's hosting a dinner party where everyone's having dinner and drinking wine at their own house, but we're having conversation. Check out, if you don't know, check out stuff like Zoom or Global Meet. They're like online meeting platforms. It's a beautiful time to connect deeper. Facebook Messenger, whatever, like talk to your friends, stay connected if you don't feel safe to see people in person, or if you're willing to have those talks about like, what do we really need? How do we do this? You know, I had to talk to my friend today, like, how do we do this? Okay, we'll go to the beach, we'll go for a walk, we could still talk, but we just kept our physical distance. We didn't hug, we didn't kiss, which we normally would. You know, we connected. We talked about that too. It was in the aliveness, right? Oh, isn't it weird when we don't hug? Like, that's the thing we normally do. What happens now? We just kind of awkwardly be like, bye! Or not awkwardly, whatever. Like, it wasn't awkward. It was beautiful and loving. It was just noticing a different tapestry of reality. We are entering into have entered into, in the midst of moving through into the unknown of a new reality. So we get to create it here. What a powerful time. What a beautiful opportunity. There are many sad things happening, and this is not to discount the destruction that is going to be caused and is being caused by what's happening right now. But how do we take that with us and thrive in that? And so for me, that's very much about speaking into the new reality, what we are creating. What would you like to create? Like for me, I still want to have beautiful, nurturing relationships with my friends. I still want to go for a walk and go to the beach. I need to have connection to nature. I need to be outside. Can I do that alone? I can. Can I send a text message to a friend when I'm outside and it's a photo of me in the sun next to a plant? Yes, I can. Why wouldn't I? What have I got to lose there? Here I am, you know, I love you, thinking of you. Might be a friend I normally go for a walk with, for example. How do we stay connected? How do we get creative here? So, you know, the opportunity that arises with clean, clear boundaries is the difference between isolation, withdrawal, shut down, collapse, complete loss of energy because you're afraid to go into a new thing or you're afraid to negotiate a new thing. What about if our negotiations and boundaries could be like a win-win? We're all winning. Like, how do we make this a win-win? It's a really important aspect to me of you know, knowing my limits, knowing what my limits are so that I know that the territory on the other side of the limit is where I can negotiate, right? I am an absolute no for someone coming into my house with shoes on right now. It's just not happening. They may not enter the threshold. Has been like that with me for many, many years, but I'm, you know, super extra clear on it now. What you walk in on your feet is all the stuff on the floor. Those little things, like where are your limits? What are your boundaries? Know them, communicate them. And I really, I'm feeling, well, I was inspired a couple of days ago, or was it yesterday? Oh, time is moving at such a different pace right now. I posted on my wall that I'd been contemplating offering a 2-hour boundaries workshop because I really want to help people get in alignment with their boundaries, to really know what their needs are and what's under them so that they can communicate their boundary from their heart instead of from a fearful, forceful, punitive. A lot of people set boundaries in fear and it's very punitive and reactionary. And to me, healthful boundaries that people will honor come from a place of like heartfelt need. Right? There's something bigger and deeper in here. Otherwise, it's just whimsically trying to control other people. What do I really need? That's why it's important. That's why if you love me, you'll listen to this. Now, you may not want to comply, but if it doesn't really offend you in some way, then the need and the heart behind something implores others to have compassion. And, you know, I remember as a child being accused of emotional manipulation. And I want to be very clear that this is not that. You know, someone who doesn't like a boundary might interpret it that way. But the difference is if I'm honoring the boundary of itself for it's where the need comes from inside my heart, the truth of that, then that is a thing where I'm willing to walk away with it to have my integrity. That's very different from an emotional manipulation, which usually comes from a place of codependence. Like, I'm trying to control you and I want you to do it like this, so I'm going to withdraw or punish you to try and make you do something. It's a really different energetic frequency. I want you to really feel the difference between the I'm requesting this because I really need this to feel safe. And then if the person doesn't agree with that thing, that's a place where the conversation or negotiation might arise. Like, they might not understand. Well, that makes no sense to me. Why do you want that? You know, someone might say to me, well, what the hell has closing the toilet lid got to do with anything? Which is when I would explain to them the data, scientific data, that is the virus is spread in fecal matter, and the other set of data that says the amount of fecal matter that is aerated in a flush, and marry those two sets of data. It could be a form of extrapolation, but to me it seems logical. And then someone might have a different view on my request. So instead of it seeming like nonsense to close the toilet lid before flushing, it might suddenly seem very rational. And then they might be more willing to, because I need to feel safe. I need to feel that I am protected. That would have me feel safe and protected. And so then it makes sense to someone. They have incentive. They have a way that their system is actually on board with it. I mean, someone might just agree to do something because you ask, because it doesn't matter to them either way or not. But this spot is really about being careful around the place where they're in refusal and maybe don't want to or don't understand why it's important for you, and then you communicating it. And then we go back in the circle. Like, they don't want to, for example, because I heard someone say the other day, I'd rather be sick than not go out. And I'm sure you can hear a little bit of judgment in my voice around that, and I will not deny that it is there, although it is absolutely their prerogative to have that perspective. It just activates my personal boundary of removing myself from an unsafe person or environment, not willing to participate on that frequency. It's not my place to judge them or not, but that's my discernment. So judgment and discernment are very close frequencies. My judgment about that behavior is because it's not in alignment with my values, and so I discern away from that. Very different than, trying to manipulate or control someone to behave in the way you want just because it's simply not your preference. And then, are you willing to remove yourself from something that's unsafe? Or, can't you? Like, it's really important to have a look at what the reality is that you're in and do your best to stay safe. If you can't remove yourself, then maybe you need to stay in your room more. If your flatmate is, unwilling to behave that way, maybe you might look at moving in with people who are more in alignment with that. To me, this is going to be a time of renegotiation and reallocation of humans, of resources, of ways of doing things. We're going to, I imagine, cut back on some of our excessive, bloated, consumptive behaviors and really set boundaries with ourselves around, like, what is important to me, what do I value, what am I choosing right now. And so, that's right, I was going to tell you about the boundaries workshop. I just was feeling the call yesterday, and I popped a Facebook post up saying, I'm contemplating doing it. Well, in fact, I've had such a brilliant response to that. So thank you all of you who have said yes to my boundaries workshop. I actually now have decided to put on a second one because I really want to give people one-on-one attention in this workshop. So I'm going to limit each workshop to 8 people. They're 2-hour online workshops. I will give a presentation around how to set boundaries, how to discern what your needs are, how to negotiate healthy boundaries and set limits and things like that. And then I also want to offer and am offering personalized one-on-one guidance in that small group format for people to bring forward any challenges that they're having, to receive guidance or perhaps an adjustment on how they're doing it, to look at it from a new perspective, to instigate more sovereignty and better, more open communicating around boundaries. I'm so super passionate about this. So if you are hearing this right now and you do want in on that, pop me a private message or drop a comment in the comments below. I feel like this is an alive matter at the moment, and I really want to support people to grow here. We're going to have to all grow up a little bit. We're all going to have to be adults. There's really no space here for emotional tantrums to get what you want. What's really going to have to be activated here is a deep sense of clarity and a willingness to speak for our needs and to back ourselves 100%. If I know that this is right for me, I must be with myself there. For if I'm out of integrity with myself, I have nothing. Comes back to bite you in the ass every single time. Behind every story of, in my opinion, behind every moment of disregard for our humanity, be it abuse, infraction, harm causing. There is something somewhere which is out of integrity with like the wholeness of being, with the heart, and it's something that I'm in service to, that frequency. So anyone have any questions? There's a few of you on here now. Has this been coming up for anyone? You guys been having to install boundaries, let people know where your boundaries are? I'm gonna drink some water while you guys ask me questions. Quiet on the boundary front. How are you guys doing with your physical distancing, if you're participating in it or not? No. Are you guys even there? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Say something. Drop me a heart emoji bomb. Maybe I'm just talking to myself. I will not allow you to be on this live stream unless you comment. You must comment now. Send me a heart bomb. No, you don't have to. Do whatever you want. I'll be good. Everyone's just like silently trolling on the other side of the Facebook. What up, people? Don't poke the bear. You guys must have stories to tell me. How's your social distancing, physical distancing, isolation going? Is anyone in quarantine? What's happening for you right now? Have you had to set boundaries with your flatmates, partners? Have you been having the talks with people about what their relationship is with self-protection and, you know, sanitation, if you will, of themselves and the environment at the moment? I'm imagining that because it's Sunday in most of the places where I go live, Saturday or Sunday, you guys are all weekending, and maybe you spent last week at home, or maybe this coming week will be your first week at home. So I look forward to hearing from you if that is going on for you, or if you find yourself in next week and you're like, oh my God, this is all that stuff Nikki was talking about. So good. I've been talking about this stuff for a while though too, people. So like, I'm really glad that the government is starting to make good choices and instigate some sensible limitations. To me, it seems like a healthy preventative response. And I am all about staying safe and calm and sensible and making rational choices from my heart in challenging times. Well, if no one has any questions, I am going to go now, and I shall speak to you soon. Bye.